What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Project Grow Show. I'm Adrian Boysel, and I have an exciting episode with you guys today. It's very humbling. I'm very grateful. There's some exciting stuff that we're going to talk about. But before I get into that, I want to introduce my guest, who I have actually on the show. And actually, our relationship and this guest I have a history with. We go way back. And if you've been with me since the very beginning with the Project Grow Show, you know the very first episode that I ever did at the radio station was one of my closest friends, one of my mentors, and somebody that I really look up to in the Christian world and in the faith world, Paul Giordano. So I want to introduce Paul, and welcome back, brother.
What's up, Adrian? How we doing, man? It's good to be back. How long ago was that when we first did that show?
Dude, we're talking like almost 3 years ago.
Wow.
Pretty close to 3 years, yep.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Like, time just
is
flying.
Doesn't seem like it's been that long, right?
No, it doesn't, man.
Nope. But now I got this little human that didn't exist.
Yeah, she's so cute.
Right? Wasn't even thought of. We had my daughter here earlier, and we just had a great time hanging out, catching up, and grabbed some lunch. And so now we just decided to jump on here and just talk a little faith, talk a little fellowship, and the word that came to me today was faithfulness. Yeah. So we'll jump into that today. But first, I want everybody to kind of refresh their memory of who you are, what you do, and kind of your background.
Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of what I've done has just kind of shifted so much over the last few years. But, currently I'm a missionary. Like, I live a missional lifestyle in the city of Sacramento. You know, God has completely wrecked my life, and I just really believe in building his kingdom. I think that those are the things that are going to last when this life is over. Yep. You know, we're talking about being successful, right? I mean, I really believe building God's kingdom. What does that look like, right? Peter talks about in the Bible, live with eternity in mind. You know, and so I'm a minister, but also outside of, I feel God has called me to be a full-time minister, which means some people, I think as believers, we're all called to impact. Mm-hmm. We're all called to be ministers. We're all called to share hope. We have the hope that Jesus provides us, right? Yep. So we get to share that as believers with the world. And this world desperately needs hope, but I do feel called to be full-time, available any time of the day in ministry, so whatever that looks like, right? I actually feel like if I had a career right now, it'd kind of be outside of what I feel like God has for my life, you know? And so I'm full-time in ministry, making that type of impact, helping change lives by God's grace, And again, I really feel like all of us, right, if changing lives, impacting lives, like those are the things that are going to carry over with us into the next life.
I agree.
So
what's cool about you is you have an amazing story, right? A lot of people have stories that they just never get to share, and that's been one of the greatest things that you've been able to do through your ministry is sharing your story. Yeah. And you didn't just wake up one day and you're like, all of a sudden, I want to do ministry full time. Yeah. Like you had a journey, and there were steps along this journey to where you are now that led you there. So maybe take people back a little bit. Just kind of touch on where you started and what's gotten you to being able to do. I mean, because there's people that watch this, they're going to be like, man, I would love, including myself, I would love to do ministry full time. I'm doing all of this, doing the show, doing the business, running the agency, and doing everything I'm doing so that I can go into ministry full time and be able to prove myself as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, and as just kind of a go-getter. I can prove myself so that I can be credible and accountable and all these things to the youth, because that's my mission, that's my passion, is the 13 to 21, the at-risk youth. That's my heart, that's where I want to be. But first, I feel like I need to prove myself in not to God, because I know he already approves, but to society, and show that I do have the chops to teach, to lead, to be a good leader. I got to lead first, right? And to prove myself. So that's kind of where I'm at today. So I just want people to understand who you are, where you've been, and what's led you to where you are. Yeah,
so who I am, so I'm the founder of now the Fellowship, which we changed the name, which is eventually, we do a lot of different events in the city of Sacramento. We are moving towards a space at some point. That vision has been in my heart for quite some time, but things have just shifted and changed. And so, I'm currently the founder of that. I'm going after that full time, but even my prior life, just a little bit. I mean, I lived a wild life. My dad is a very successful businessman. That was my goal, to take over that company. Mid-20s, like that was the goal. And it's a multi-million-dollar corporation. At that time, I was living a pretty wild life, though. So, I barely getting into work, and just because of the lifestyle I was living, and I hit a rock bottom just through drugs, alcohol, and partying. Just to make it short. Yeah. And that's when God changed my life. And when God changed my life, he changed my mission. He changed my focus. He changed everything about me.
Your heart.
My heart. And so since then, I actually left that business world, sort of say, and I got into just the full-time ministry world. And how can I impact lives? I believe Jesus is the answer for every human being. It all starts with that. And I think that I get to share that message with people.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing for me. So I'm currently on that mission, created the fellowship, which is eventually going to be a space where young people, I came from the party scene, so I have a huge heart for that culture.
Yeah.
Eventually we're going to have a space, where people can experience, an atmosphere of partying and community without having to destroy their lives with drugs and alcohol and, all these things that I believe just rip people down, tear people down rather than building people up,
Yep.
And so many young people are finding themselves in these spaces every weekend, and they're not healthy, they're negative, they're weighing everybody down. And I didn't realize that at the time,
Yep.
but I did. I have a clearer perspective on that now. And I feel like this generation, they need a space.
Yep.
So many people I think are looking for that, but it's not out there. And so we want to create that space. We want to give people that type of an environment where people can come in and just, we might not have alcohol, but there's genuine connections happening in the room. Like this conversation, a lot of times you're not finding this stuff at the nightclub, but genuine, sincere, authentic relationships.
Yep.
So a space where genuine relationships can happen, authenticity is in the room. Yeah, amazing DJs and artists and musicians and just amazing environment, all faith-based.
Yep.
Actually, we do interviews like this on the stage.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's like during the night you have live music, all these different things going on. But then we also do interviews like this, and we share somebody's story of how their journey in the party scene, and then how their life, what was that moment of transformation for you, which is that God encounter, that Jesus encounter. And I believe that releases hope in the room, because there's so many people that are stuck in that vicious cycle of drugs, alcohol, all these negative, these lifestyle behaviors that they're living that just aren't the best for them. And they're looking, they're wondering, how can I change?
Yep.
And so it's not only an amazing space, a community, but it's also a place where lives are being changed and people are being sent onto a new direction and a new path.
Yep.
And so that's kind of like the long-term goal, the bigger goal. But meanwhile, we have a community of young people in the city of Sacramento, and I'm raising up people to show them how to just influence. I believe God has given me an influence in Sacramento, and I've been able to help impact a lot of lives just by walking in who I am. I'm not forcing anything down anybody's throat, but I'm walking out who I am.
Yep.
And I know that when I get in certain conversations that I can feel God starting to work, and I just look for those moments and I partner with him in those moments, because there's so many people that are hurting. There's so many people that are broken, and I have the answer once again. And so I'm raising up a bunch of young people in the city of Sacramento as influencers to impact and bring change within the city. So I currently do that full-time. I'm full-time looking to bring impact, looking to help change lives, seeing how I can serve. And then I'm raising up a team of young people to be doing the same thing and just teaching them what it really means to be an influencer and really influence for God's kingdom, which I believe is the best influence that we could be making. So that's currently what I'm doing.
Beautiful.
And a little bit of like what it would look like prior to where I am today. Yeah.
I know it's changed a little bit maybe on the branding side, but since I've known you, almost since the day that we first met till now, you've never changed your message. Your message has been exactly the same, which is awesome, because it's a God-given message, right? Just like mine. At-risk youth and restore broken families. If I can help the at-risk youth, it's not that their previous wounds and trauma is going to be changed and transformed, but the future generations, which is what my heart is after, is going to be changed and transformed. So I think that's important, and there's going to be a way to do that. It's by educating them, by being a friend to them. That's what changed my life. So I have some tools and resources, but you have tools and resources and strategies that you're using that I think if we could share a couple of them with people, that these are things that whether you live in New York, New Mexico, or freaking Africa, it doesn't matter where you're at, you can apply some of the things that you're doing to truly help people. For the Christian kingdom-minded people that are out there that are watching this, what are some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis to just connect with people?
Yeah, so like you were saying, like, you want to build this platform and this credibility, sort of say, so that way you can do some of God's work and things like that, right? You were saying earlier. Well, I think for one, just knowing who we are in God, that for one, he's given us everything we need in our relationship, and he qualifies us, and we have his presence with us, which is powerful. You know, when you become a believer, right, you believe in Jesus, but you also receive him. And so God himself lives within inside of us. And so a lot of the times, Adrian, it's not really about me. I really can't provide people what they truly need.
Yep.
That's only God. But I can be a vessel. And so I think what people can understand is you can be a vessel. Every day, you can be a vessel.
Yep.
And really, it's just, hey, God, use me today. It says in Ephesians that he's prepared good works for us to walk into in advance.
Yep.
So if you're a believer out there, right, it's like he's prepared good works for you to walk into advance. The God of the universe has prepared these works for you.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we have our to-do list. We have all our things we got to get done in business, whatever, all these different things. But the thing is God has a to-do list for us as well.
Yep.
So my encouragement would be, what's the prayer? God, I know you have a to-do list for me today. Like, I know you have people, like, every day, like, we just went and got a sandwich. Every day we're crossing people's paths. It says in the Bible, too, that God scans the earth to and fro, looking for a willing vessel that he might use. I like to be the guy with the open sign on.
Hey.
God, use me. That's my prayer request every day. And so I would just say, listen, God wants to use you. You are more capable than you think you are. And really, when you're a believer, it's not really even you. It's him working through you. And so it even says in Scripture, step out in faith. In that very moment, I will give you words to say. You know, God will show up in those moments. And so I would just say, I pray, God, show me these moments and let me be sensitive to those moments.
Yep.
So it might be at Starbucks. It might be at the gym. It might be at the grocery store. It might be one of your clients that all of a sudden you're in conversation and you're just really feeling a burden. You're feeling maybe this person's having a certain type of a day.
Yeah.
Lean into that.
It's not always going to be a positive situation. It could be somebody angry in traffic that's pissed off and cut you off, and you pull up at the light next to each other, and instead of cussing at each other or getting in some sort of, back and forth, you just, hey man, are you okay?
Yeah.
Hey, God bless you. And a simple word of encouragement could be a change.
And I think that's the thing. It's like when we see those types of people in traffic, yelling, screaming, flipping you off, the problem's not you.
Yeah. Right?
They're dealing with something. So I think us understanding those things, and I think that comes from a place of health. And I think that's what's amazing about your relationship with Jesus and with God. God is love. And
Yep.
when you understand that you truly have a Father in heaven that absolutely loves you, and you receive that love, you're now whole.
Yep.
And so you're not looking for that anywhere else. And then all of a sudden you're starting to look at the world around you in a different lens. Oh, they just don't know that they're loved. And so now all of a sudden you start having a compassion rather than anger or whatever else. So I think that's the key. First, receive that love.
Yep.
Then become that love. And then understand the world around you is broken and that you have the solution. So when that guy flips you off, oh, he's just hurt. How can I bless him?
Yep.
How can I pray for him? Because most of the times, people want you to react with anger. They expect that. But when you respond in the opposite,
It's like, whoa.
that right there can change somebody.
Oh, easily.
So.
Or at least plant some sort of a seed of like, I didn't expect that. And at least get somebody thinking, right? And change the context of what they were expecting.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And there's been kind of a theme for this last week. It's been interesting. We've talked about, I've talked with Ian about faith and forgiveness and, having a forgiving heart, right? I think there are people that we need to forgive. There are people that have offended us, who've done us wrong. And then there are people that we've offended that we need to ask for forgiveness. And then we need to forgive ourselves. There's a lot of dynamics to forgiveness.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a whole episode and go deep on a forgiveness thing on that alone. But I feel like you said something that you touched on that made me think of it again. It was like, when we're not open to receive, right? If there's so much anger and resentment and pain, and we're just going through the world and we're just focused on our problems and our life and our needs and our worries and our stresses and our goals and all these things, and we don't focus on something greater than us, and that's really what's brought us together time and time again, and we focus on things, it's like holding your own hand. You're relying on your own strength.
Yeah.
But when you let go of your own hand and you reach out, and then all of a sudden you realize that there's somebody there to take it and to lift that weight off of you.
Yeah.
That's when everything changes, dude. Yeah. And I don't think you can, I think people radically get encountered and they have those crazy God moments, but I think it's a process, it's a journey, right? And there's forgiveness and there's other things that have to happen along that journey for your heart to become softened, for you to be able to be willing to first you got to let go, right? That's the first step. And forgiveness is what's going to help you let go and realize you can't do it in your own strength, that you need help. Yeah. And then once you realize that you need help and you start reaching your hand out, that's when you realize that his hand's been there, just sitting there waiting the whole entire time. Yes. And so we used an analogy recently that I thought was neat, was like, you're into music. This is the perfect example. Remember you probably could remember this, but the very first song that ever came on that literally touched you like on a soul level, that gave you your muse and your fire for music, the first hip hop song, the first rap song, whatever it was, there was something that flipped a switch for you that you were like, and you just sat there and listened to it over and over and over. And the more you listened to it, you didn't get bored of the song. You just became more, it was like grooves, like on a record. Ian was talking about a record and just going deeper and deeper. And it just becomes ingrained into you, and like the lyrics and every word, and you remember the song, and you could 5 years later, you can still say every word to the song. Like it's just part of who you are, right? That's the same thing with your faith. Is after you become hungry. It makes you hungrier for music. It makes you hungry, like that same, once you've experienced and you let go of your own hand and you reach out and you feel that.
Yeah. There's nothing greater.
There's nothing greater.
There's nothing greater.
And music can't even touch that. Yeah. So if you put that into perspective of how much people love music and the deep connections that people have to music and how people's lives revolve around music. There are people out there that live, breathe, eat, and sleep music. Yeah. If they lived, breathed, and eat Jesus.
Watch, yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, man, I can imagine. Your whole life is going to be changed.
Completely changed.
For the better, 100%.
Yep.
You know, like you were saying, like going after this goal and that goal, and, you know, everything kind of, I centered on us, you know. It's all kind of can get sometimes very self-focused, right?
True.
My goals, my this, my that. And I think and then it's like the stress of everything too that you're carrying, but it's all trying to figure out how I can do this and how we can do that. And it's, God, for one, it's like letting that go. But then for two, it's God's created us to look outwardly.
Yep.
And the more we look inwardly and the more we try to just have everything about self, or me, or my situation, honestly, I feel like that's why we are so stressed out.
Yep. That's
why we're so crippled with anxiety. Because God has created us to be givers.
Yep.
There's a scripture in the Bible that says, it's in Proverbs, it says, those who refresh others, will they themselves be refreshed.
Beautiful.
So when you can't do any of this we're talking about until you get to that point where you're like, listen, God is there, he's good, he loves me, and I'm going to reach my hand out. But when you do, you realize, okay, now I can trust that, and I can walk in that, and I can see, instead of just being so focused on myself, how can I be a blessing? And as I walk with that mindset, and it's not like I'm still not doing business, I'm still not doing all these different things I need to do, but my goal isn't just about myself. It's, hey, how can I be a blessing in these situations? How can I help the world around me? And as I do that, God takes care of me.
Yep.
God blesses me more than I could even want to be blessed.
Yeah.
He says he will bless us above and beyond anything we could ever ask, think, or imagine.
Yep.
Like, that's what God does, is seeking first his kingdom, and everything else will be added.
Yep.
So when I walk with that mindset and I want to bless others, the natural overflow is, oh, I can trust this individual.
Yeah.
I'm going to bless him. You know, and I can bless him with more resources, and because I know that it's not going to be this thing where it's just all about me, but man, God wants to give us an excess so we can actually make this world a better place. We can impact lives, make a difference too.
And leave the 99 for the one, right? And basically save lives. I mean, that's the whole goal of it, is to bring people to Jesus. I mean, yes. that's the greatest victory that we can have
100%
in our life. And once we realize that, that's where the change happens. So one of the things that I think about, and just since we've last connected, so much has happened. I shared a little bit of the trauma, the pain, the losing my son, and all the things, losing a baby, things I've never even talked about on here. All the trauma, and we have some comments that we can talk about that you made to me that I think are very important to share on this. But through all that is I started to take a hard look, myself and my wife and just our family in general, at what do they call that? The prosperity gospel. Because a lot of the things that you say, there are people that are going to watch this that are evangelical like us, that are hardcore Jesus freaks, and then there's going to be the more conservative Christians that they pray and they go to church, but they're not on fire, they're not dialoguing. And that's not to say that there's anything bad with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but not everybody is living, breathing, and walking out the prosperity gospel. And so for evangelicals like us, where we're fired up, we're connecting to God, we're chasing after him, we have a different relationship. What do you say to somebody who's, when they run up against a challenge and they face, because like you said, seek the kingdom, everything else, well, not everything is always added. There's going to be challenges, trials, tribulations, things that I went through that rocked me to the core on a human level. But because I was prepped, I feel, by God for so long before that, I had 4 years of just chasing after him and just getting hungrier. And I mean, reading the book of Job, I mean, just studying the word and just becoming, it was my everyday life. From wake up in the morning, that's how I started my day. Church 2-3 times a week. I mean, small groups, like I just lived and breathed it. Not everybody's in that position. And then when all that hit, I haven't been to church now in probably 6 months, right? So how do you encourage somebody that is suffered, because we know that there's suffering in this world, that's suffered so much loss, starvation, hunger, death, famine, whatever it is, COVID, I mean, all the different things that are going on, because we live in a chaotic world. How do you encourage somebody? How do you lift somebody up from that and preach a prosperity gospel to someone that's in pain?
Yeah, prosperity, what do you mean in the sense that God's going to come through? He's going to
God's going to come. He's going to be there for you. He's going to just have faith. Just have faith.
So,
just have faith, right? A lot of people hear that.
So you're saying like sometimes that can be just
can be hurtful.
Nailed. Yeah, just been spoken into too much. Is that what you're sharing?
People that love Jesus, that believe in Jesus, but then go through a traumatic incident. And then
because on one coin there is God is good and he does want to bless us and he has things for us, but at the same time, like you're saying, there is trials, there is tribulations, there's you know, I mean, and I think what it comes down to is God has a plan. It is a good plan. He does have great things for us, but yes, there's a road. There's a road that we are all on, and we live in a world that's fallen and broken as well. So that comes into play, and you know, and there's trials along the path. But the good thing, the amazing thing we have in Christ is that no matter what happens to us, when our hope is anchored in Jesus, our hope cannot be shaken. Like in Matthew, it talks about building your life on the solid rock. When the waves and the winds come, what is that? Trials, you know what I mean? The tribulations, these things, these testing, you know, it's like sometimes it's not even God testing us. Sometimes it's just an overflow of the world around us, you know what I'm saying? So different things that we're facing, like those things are going to come, but when our life is built on the solid rock, we can't be moved. And I think that's the goal, because when our life is built on the shifting sand, which is our circumstances and everything falling apart, our hope will get stripped from us like that.
Fact.
But when our hope is secure in Jesus and our life is built on the rock, it doesn't matter really what happens. You can't take that from me. And that's what's amazing about Christ, is I can go through cancer and I can still have hope. I can still have peace because I know the God of peace, and nobody can take that from me.
That's it.
Imagine going through cancer without knowing the God of peace. You see what I'm saying?
No thanks.
That's what I'm trying to say is like, you know, it says it, the rain falls on the just and the unjust. So we all experience, you know, it says, in this world you'll have many troubles, but don't, you know, fear, because I've overcame the world, right? Exactly. So it's the security that we can have in him, and no matter what we face, we can have peace and we can have hope. And we know too that in Scripture that all things work together for those that are, for all things work together for the good of those who are called according to his purposes.
And we're all called, right?
And we're all called as his children. As God's children, we're all called. So I know that even if I'm going through the roughest of time, that somehow God is going to turn this around. And there's going to be good that comes through it. This isn't the end of my story.
There we go.
You know what I mean? That's just a chapter. Let's not put a period where God is putting a comma. You know?
That's what I'm talking about. You hear that? Let's not put a period where God's put a comma.
Yeah, that's the thing is you know, is trusting him through the storm and understanding. For one, you got to understand that God is good, that he does want to see you through. Doesn't mean that every day is going to be perfect, but he is. And he can give you the grace, the strength, the peace, the faith, the fortitude to keep going. You know? And man, when you don't have him and you're going through these trials, man, you're turning to alcohol. You know what I mean? You're drinking yourself to sleep. You're turning to all these other things.
We've both been there.
And it just literally is making your life even worse. And so, yeah, we're all going to struggle in this life. We're all going to go through different things. But when you got Jesus, you got peace.
Man.
And you can walk through anything. And God will turn all things for good. And that's who he is. That's even your story, man. Like I'm on a mission.
Mm-hmm.
You're on a mission too.
Yep.
And you have you're married now. You got a kid. I'm single still.
Yeah.
I'm just like Paul the Apostle out there just running on mission.
Still single, ladies.
So it's like we haven't been as close the last couple years, but you're married and you got this beautiful child. But you were filling me in too on some of this stuff, and I knew about some of these things, but like even going a little bit deeper into it of what you just walked through. But now look at you on the other side of that. I look at your life today, and I just got done talking to Whitney and everything that's happening with her business blowing up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's like God is faithful.
He is.
He is. He's faithful, and he's going to come through, and he's going to show up. That's who he is.
That faithfulness. And that is why I believe that word was anchored in me. When I read that scripture, I just popped open the Bible today. I haven't been opening it as much as I used to, that's for sure, because it used to be every day, multiple times a day. I used to take it with me. If I went to the restaurant, I took it into the restaurant with me. I lived by that thing. And lately, just what I found out through another conversation on a previous episode, was just like an episode or two ago. It's not that I didn't, and I did it with my business partner, Raul. It's not that I don't have lost any faith. It's not that I'm not reading it because I don't believe like I used to believe. It's because I'm in a place that I feel so great and things are going so well that all of a sudden it drops down on its priority list. And then when things start to taper back down again, and I go through the next rough patch, what's going to happen? So I think that faithfulness is very important. So while you were talking, I kind of got this almost like a picture, a visual of three, right? The Trinity. But it also relates to our faithfulness in him, our faithfulness in others, and our faithfulness in ourselves. I think those are, him first, then in other people, and then us. I think we should come last, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people struggle first to even have faith in him, especially when they're rocked by a crazy situation, and then they lose faith in others. That tends to crumble. And then if you don't have those two, then there's probably some sort of identity issue going on with yourself when you can't connect with others. And so there's something with faithfulness in yourself and just believing that you were created with a purpose, with a plan, and with a calling on your life for better and great things, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you live one more day or 1,000 more days, doesn't matter how many days you live, you were put here for a purpose and a plan. So I think that is my biggest takeaway, is through all the trials and tribulations, is those three things, is remembering him, my faithfulness in him, remembering my faithfulness in my friends, people like you, and then my faithfulness in myself. I have to believe in what God has told me and what he said about me and how he sees me and all of these things. And if that's not well, then how can anything else, and if Jesus isn't the center of my life and my friends, I don't have a healthy relationships and I'm not able to communicate and break through some of the barriers, because that's how the conversation with us again started. We've talked, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times over the last 2 years, not that many times. Yeah. And each conversation was more business oriented. And so how our conversation started back up, I was like, he called me a couple weeks ago and wanted to question about the radio show. Yeah. And then I was like right in the middle of driving or doing something. And I told Whitney, I was like, man, I really want to talk to him, but it's always like a business thing. And I really love Paul. Like I want to be able to have more of a friendship with him. And it's just certain situations came up for the last couple of years. And I just felt not disappointed or even let down, just like, man, I wish I would have gotten to spend more time with Paul. Yeah. But the reality is, like you said, I had a baby in the last few. I had crazy lawyer court cases. I had, just challenges with family and all the other things, businesses and just all the different things that I went up against. And you have your own missions and things going on. So it was hard for us to connect, but here we are 2.5, 3 years later, and nothing's changed, right? Yeah. The truth and the reality of it, just like my relationship with Jesus hasn't changed. He's still the center of my life. He's still my heart and soul. Same with our brotherhood and our friendship and our fellowship, right? Yeah. Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
The brand of Lounge of Life and being fellowship could have changed, but it's still the same thing.
It is. It's still the same thing in a lot of different ways. It's just the Lounge of Life was branded as an alternative.
Yep.
And after I rethought about it all, I'm like, listen, we're not an alternative to the nightclub industry. I mean, which is kind of like this, I don't know, just this kind of side thing, right?
There's a lot of fakeness in it.
And And I was thinking about it. I'm like, no, actually, like, I think we're the real deal. Like this, I think this is how nightclub, if you think about it, is like a time of celebration. It's a time of getting together with friends and community, right?
Almost worship, right? Dancing, partying, like jumping up and down and celebrating, like you said, fellowship. Like, yeah.
And it's like, I just think that, you know, there's good and evil in this world, and I think that evil's kind of capitalized on that, right? Darkness, where, you know, he creates the nightlife, that community aspect, which should be like just community and celebration, and brings all these negativities into it. Drugs, alcohol, all these things that are just ripping tearing people down. So I actually think that what we're putting out into the world is what everybody's longing for.
Yep.
I think that's the counterfeit that people are going to.
Ooh. And
I think that what we're supplying them is actually what they really want. Genuine, authentic relationships.
Yep.
Love. Acceptance. Being known. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. Like, in having fun in a way that's not going to make you feel depressed the next day or the next 3 days.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? Like, and having fun in a way that's not going to set you back, right? Because you just worked hard all week, but then you went out and just got trashed all weekend, and now you're like lost everything that you worked for, you know? But something that's actually going to help get you into a place where you can celebrate, have fun, but now build a community and a people group around you that helps build a foundation for you that you can build off of moving into the rest of your life. Because I think that in your 20s, early 20s, you should be building a foundation for that you can stand on for the future and for what's to come. But instead, we just go party it up, build no foundation, do everything wrong, and then we expect one day to flip the switch and think like, hey, okay, now I want to get serious with a girl. And it's like, well, you haven't been serious with anybody. You don't think that those patterns actually stick with you? You don't think that they're a little deeper than just you doing what you want to do? No, those behaviors run deeper than just turning off the switch.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, and then all the patterns, your spending patterns, you think that those just turn off? All the debt that you just got in?
Or the people that you've surrounded yourself
with. Or the people
that
you're surrounding yourself with that most of the time only want to be around you because of maybe how much money you're making, or you got the drugs, or you got the goods, or you got the girls. You know, all these things aren't sustainable.
Yep.
If you really nail it down, they're not sustainable. And so I actually think that we're the real deal. This is a space that you should be in because it's going to help better your life on every level. It's going to help give you a clear vision. It's going to help build a foundation in your life. And it's going to help put you in a community of people that are amazing and that people you can build life with, you know? So,
yeah, absolutely. So I think if you guys are watching this and you've been tuning in this whole time, I think the faithfulness being the key word and the central focal point of what we're talking about today, I think many of you guys can relate to wanting to have faithful friends.
Yeah.
Not just, you know, faith in your God, but also faithful friendships. How many of you would love to have authentic, real friendships where even if you guys didn't talk to each other for 6 months, 6 months passes by, you pick up the phone and it's right back to that same area. But the reality of that is it's not always going to be easy. It just keeps like hitting me while we're talking is a sports team, because so many people can relate to sports. And if you use fair weather fans, right? One year, Denver Broncos go on a winning streak, and someone's like, oh, I'm a Denver Broncos fan. And then next thing you know, the New Orleans Saints go on a winning streak, and they're New Orleans Saints. And you're like, what is that about, right?
Yeah.
But there's the people like me that good or bad or ugly, like in the best seasons when we're on a winning streak, go Niners. Yeah. And then when we're losing for 10 years straight and can't win a single freaking
loyalty,
that loyalty and that faithfulness, again, to that friendship, you have to be able to stick it out and also communicate through that and voice those pains, you know, thoughts, challenges to be able to get the breakthrough. Because I think our friendship hasn't changed, but I think it's only gotten stronger and now getting rooted even deeper. Me being able to push myself out of my comfort zone with the help of another faithful friend, right? My wife is about as faithful as it gets. Yeah. To have somebody like that can say, hey, I see that you're feeling a certain way about your friendship with him. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not about him doing something, but maybe it's about you and projecting something that you want out of the friendship with him that you haven't even communicated to him. Maybe you need to have that communication and have that conversation with him like, hey, this is how I see our friendship. Yeah. Because I don't think a lot of people, like, they just become friends, they start kicking it, right? Because it's like a thing of convenience, and they start kicking it, they hang out, and they're good, they're buddies, and then all of a sudden life happens, right? And a kid comes, or a relationship happens, and the next thing you know, those two friends are off, and they just never talk to each other again. When in reality, it was an opportunity for them to be like, hey, look, man, you're one of my closest friends. regardless of the situation, whether we talk or not every day. I freaking love you, bro. And I'm hoping the best for you. I'm praying for you. Like, if you need something, if something does go down, just call me, right?
Yeah.
And being able to have, like, even though you're going your own ways in your day-to-day life, being able to have those uncomfortable conversations as friends and be huge. Like, look, bro, no matter what, dude, just call me. If you need me to come help you, you need me to come freaking talk you off the ledge, like whatever it is, if you need just somebody to vent to, holler at me, right? Yeah. And so those are important conversations I had. I probably, if it hadn't have been for Whitney, to be truthful, I probably wouldn't have ever said it. Man. I probably would have just let the phone go to ringer or go to voicemail a couple more times. And then when I had a free moment, because it's been so busy, like, hey, bro, I just can't help you with that right now. But instead, I pushed myself out of the comfort zone and I was like, there's something here. Yeah. She sees it. She's pointing it out to me. I see it. Now I feel it and I recognize it. Wow. Now it's up to me. It's my decision. At the end of the day, God's given us free will. It's just like our decision to chase after him or to hold our own hand, to reach out or to hold our own hand. Are we going to let go or are we going to reach out? And so what I did there with you on that phone call is just in a random moment when you called me again, I was like, I just felt it. I was like, this is it. I'm just going to tell him like it is. He's either going to react great and be like, man, I didn't realize that. Or he's going to be like, well, forget you then, man. Like, you know what I mean? Just respond the opposite way. And most of the time, I think the fears that we have as human beings, we like project the worst case scenario. Yeah. But the reality is most times, I think 90% of the time, in most cases, it goes the opposite direction. It actually works out way better than we expected it to. Yeah. And here we are because of it.
Yeah. I just want to commend you.
Thanks, brother.
I think, your vulnerability, just the courage it takes to have that conversation. Yeah. I think that's amazing. And I think that, honestly, I talk about it all the time. It's like having those conversations that are difficult, the messy conversation. But I think that's where the true growth comes from. I think part of the reason why we don't want to have those conversations is a lot of times we probably have bad experiences from our past and family and, where things did blow up and go crazy. But if your friends, like, the space that I'm in and, obviously the space you're in, I think that that's the best way to approach those things. Yep. And I think that if it's done in a way of health, the goal is it might be uncomfortable. It might be a little awkward. All these different things, but the goal is, and you might have to wrestle through it too, but the goal is but there is a place we can get to on the other side where it does bring us closer together. And so I really commend you for having that conversation with me. And, I even told you I don't want you to feel the way you were feeling. And I wanted you to know, too, like, hey, listen, like, I'm a phone call away. I know that you're busy, I'm busy. And I was even telling you, it's like, I mean, we all have so many different relationships and whatever else. And we're trying to manage all these different things, even with family and all this stuff. There's just so many different dynamics. But it doesn't mean that we can't connect still and do lunch. Or coffee, or a podcast, or a podcast. And even a phone call. So I'm here. I'm here. I'm available, and those are the things that I want too. So I'm glad we're able to have that convo, and I think that our relationship can be stronger because of that.
Exactly, and I think that no matter what phase we're in our lives, like, all of a sudden you have a kid or you meet somebody and next thing you know, you got to move into like another country. Like, who knows what happens, right? You go on some mission. Like, life can just take crazy detours that we just don't see. God's plans are wild, right? So no matter what, because we have this foundation now and we've had this conversation and we're sharing this vulnerability and this conversation with other people, in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we'll be able to look back and be like, no matter what season of our life that we're in, no matter how busy you are, no matter how busy I am, whatever's, we still understand each other and we still know that our faithfulness in our friendship is never going to change. There's nothing that's going to get in the way with that. Nothing can. It's like the three-stranded cord, like when you get married, right? There's nothing, because we both are focused on him, and that's what draws us together. And that's what draws me to a lot of people. When I see people pray on YouTube, or I see like people out on the street, God bless you. I'm like, give me a reason to talk about Jesus, right? Anybody that I bump into the street, they're like, God bless you. I'm like, oh, you love Jesus too? I'm like, I look for that. I seek that out everywhere I go. So I think that's one of the things that bonds us, close together. But there's also the entrepreneurial spirit, just the social dynamics of, how we kind of came together and our story. So I think there's lots of components to friendship, but I think the root of it all is just being able to have that faithfulness towards each other. Like, hey, I'm always going to be here for you. If you need me, you got a business question, you got a personal question, you just need somebody to come lift furniture, like whatever it is, I'm there for you.
You know you're a friend when you're going to come lift some furniture.
Right. There you go. That's a real mark of a friend. So I think it's important. I think there's a lot of people that can just take some good nuggets away from that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man. And I think expectations are big too, though, and I think you even mentioned that on the phone, and I've went through that in my own personal life too, where, it's like there's friendships and it's real and it needs to be real and authentic. But things sometimes too, like even I've been in that place where also just checking our expectations sometimes. Are we putting too much of an expectation on something or a situation or a person that maybe not necessarily can't fulfill that expectation?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a real thing as well that I look at in my life too. And I think, and within friendships too. And so just having healthy expectations on one another. And I think that can also comes back to like your relationship with God too, because it's like sometimes, when like, yes, sometimes like even me in my own journey where it was like, man, I was putting too much emphasis on people when really it's like God put those people in my life to have friendship and be a blessing, but really like I should be putting most of that expectation on him.
Yeah.
That's true. So it was a little bit out of balance. You know? And
I think entrepreneurs in general, we're a unique breed. We're willing to take risks and do things that most people go out and do full-time, because full-time ministry is an entrepreneur, like through and through. I mean, that's like the riskiest entrepreneur, right? And from our perspective, it's not risky, but from the outsider's perspective, that's like super risky. Like you're going to depend all of your stuff on donations, on like ministry, like on tithes and like all that. So I think those risks we are willing to take as entrepreneurs. But I think those expectations, because we have such high standards for ourselves, we can tend to put those on other people.
Totally.
And I think like what you're saying there, it's important to realize the expectations, because I was doing that with you. I was like, bro, like you're one of my closest friends. Like I wanted you into my 3 to 7 of like my closest people. But what's the realistic probability behind that? You're all the way in Sacramento. I'm all the way out here. We're 40 minute drive from each other. I got a full-time 50, 60 hour a week gig going on. You got a 50, 60 hour a week gig. It's just not realistic. It has nothing. We didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. I haven't done anything wrong. But to expect that from each other is unrealistic expectations.
And then just cherish the moments where we are in the same room, where we are spending that time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like just making sure that those moments are moments that are real and they're moments we can't get back. You know what I mean? And really just embracing them, being present in those moments.
The riches.
Yeah, it's like, the ebbs and flows.
Totally.
And but also being intentional too. There's that ebb and flow.
Yep.
And then there's the intentionality too. So it's like, hey, we can still be intentional about coffee or lunch.
Exactly.
But also just in seasons. Life is in seasons too.
Yep.
I'm big on seasons. I really think, just different seasons and like again the ebbs and flows of life.
Yep.
And so there's some seasons where like it seems like now we're back in each other's lives, and we might be in each other's lives a lot.
Yep. That's exactly right.
And there was a season where we weren't in each other's lives as much.
Yep.
So life is in seasons as well.
That's important to remember that. And I think when you set those expectations to be more realistic, you set yourself up to be less disappointed.
Yep.
And when you get disappointed, that's when those rifts happen in friendships and relationships. And like if you set these expectations like God loves me and he's got huge plans for my life and I'm going to do amazing things, and then all of a sudden a challenge comes and you're like, oh, and you're all disappointed because you thought God was going to do all these amazing things and he had all these plans for you and you were going to change this and change that. And it's like, were your expectations unrealistic?
Yeah.
Maybe that is still the truth, but maybe you're saying you're wanting it now, and maybe it's his timing and not your timing, right?
Like right here.
Boom. Godspeed. I love that tattoo, dude. That needs to be on the front of a t-shirt, like written the same way. It'd be super cool.
Godspeed, man. His timing, not our own.
That's true. So I think that's important, to set lower expectations. A phone call. Like, how simple is that? If I got to have a phone call with you once a month or once every 3 months, like, that's awesome. Like, I don't have huge expectations.
Yeah.
I don't need to expect more from you than I would even expect from myself, because I can't commit to an every week or an everyday conversation because of, you know what I mean? And as things are transferring and changing in our lives, and we have this potential radio show, like that'll probably change. You know, we'll be talking a couple days a week, or you know, at least 3 or 4 times a week, something like that, even a text message back and forth. But I think it's realistic to just expect to just understand each other and just get on the same page. And just come
communication is key. And I even think back to the season where we were at the office in Roseville, right, or Granite Bay.
Yep, in Granite Bay.
And how many months was that? Like,
dude,
3,
like
4,
6
months?
Probably close to 6 months.
Yeah.
He was coming to my office every single Friday.
And it's like, I know that had to do with ministry, right? But at the same time, one thing about me, like in the ministry, like I'm not doing this for me.
Yeah.
It's for God. Period. I'm not in it for money.
No.
It's like, this is not the business for money.
No, this is not.
You know what I mean? I'm in this for God.
Totally.
And so you had a passion on that same stuff too, and it's like, I cherish those moments of 6 months coming into your office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That season of life where we were together every day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And I wasn't just there just to try to get a pitch deck or whatever else. Like,
no.
You know what I mean? It's like I was trying to invest into your life.
Each other's life.
Each other's life.
We just were truly investing.
And we would get into prayer. We would get in the Word together.
Yep.
We would, you know what I mean? We would be doing that sometimes more than the other stuff.
It's true. And impacting the people that were there that were working on our team.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, that was just the season though, you know, and then things change. Ebbs and flows and changes. And so, yeah.
Well, shifting just a little bit, I think to close things out, I feel like from your perspective, because I do look at you as a mentor, even though we're really close in age, I see you as a mentor from the ministry perspective, and that's where I'm going, right? You're living in it, you're walking it out every single day more than I am. And so as an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. What encouragement can you give to somebody from the perspective as a ministry to be able to, because we're talking about like monetizing ministry, right? And creating a platform that's going to allow people in the faith world to have a place to go to celebrate music, to celebrate all these different things that we're talking about right now, and profiting from that. What, like for me, like starting a ministry and then making money on that ministry, in your eyes and from your expertise and your perspective, where are the lines drawn? Because there's got to be lines, right? There's got to be boundaries. Where do you draw those lines?
You saying like a ministry making money?
Yeah, a ministry making money.
I think that for me, like, we're not a church, right? I mean, I think we are the church, right?
Yeah.
This is the church, 2 or more gathered.
Exactly.
But I'm meaning in a sense of your standard like church and building and structure. I mean, I think everything we do, everything's a little bit, they're all kind of unique in and of themselves. But like for me, I mean, we're more outside the church. We're a parachurch. So I think that we have to build a model that can be self-sustaining, because there's a lot of parachurch nonprofits that struggle with resource. And so I'm not building that, you know, that sustainability so I can profit. I'm building that sustainability so the ministry can sustain itself. So any revenue that comes through that thing, it goes to fund the mission of the organization. So, you know, I mean, and within that, yeah, like doing full-time ministry, people have salaries. I mean, it says in the scripture that a worker is worth his wages.
You got to take care of yourself.
God is calling you to full-time ministry, you got to be able to provide for yourself.
And for your family.
So I don't think like, I mean, I think that those salaries are got to be realistic, you know, and obviously not over the top.
Yeah.
But again, because that's not why we're in it. But I mean, when it comes to ministry, I think that God has given us a creative mind, you know, and we can think creatively, and I think we can build things that can generate revenue. But I think the goal for me, at least, is to it should be in ministry to funnel it back to the mission. And then within that umbrella, you know, if you're working within that ministry, God's gonna bring resource. So as a nonprofit, people can donate to what you do because they believe in the cause. But then we've also built, long-term model speaking, built revenue streams that are going to fund it as well. And within that umbrella of ministry, of the nonprofit, you know, you get taken care of, you know, and God takes care of us.
100%.
You know what I mean? And We don't need a ton, but God provides, you know. So
well, and I just feel like there's, especially in the ministry world and people that want to go into ministry that are entrepreneurs, I feel like there's like not a taboo, but there's almost like this relationship towards money and viewpoint towards money in the church of money is the root of all evil, right? But I see that as that's a character defect and a defect of the heart, of where your heart is at. If your heart is rooted in him, money is a tool. So
yeah, 100%.
If as an entrepreneur, if I need to pay myself $250,000 a year in a ministry position to be able to provide a building, have the right living situations, and to set my life up to be able to perform at my highest level possible to serve my ministry, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think there's a lot of people that are afraid to be criticized, to be judged for wanting to make. Why shouldn't you make great money? If you want to, if you struggled like I have for 15 years as an entrepreneur to get to where you want to be, and all of a sudden God brings a breakthrough and you start making let's just say $20,000 a month, right? That's a lot of money
through the ministry.
Through the ministry that you're doing. If you're making $20,000 a month let's just say you're making $100 in the ministry, $100,000 a month, but you're paying yourself $20, and that's going to help you get the right, resources for your family, the right trainers, therapists, like coaches, consultants to help you perform at the highest level possible. The more you can invest into yourself, we are our best investments, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not a thing about greed or wanting to have tons and tons of money. It's about utilizing that money as a tool to be able to perform at our highest, to be able to hire other people, to make smart investments, to invest in buildings. Like I'm taking the money that I'm making, not just to buy myself my first home, I'm making more money than I ever have, but not just to buy myself my first home, but to invest into other businesses that I want to bring in my kingdom-minded culture and ministry. I want to bring Jesus into businesses. That's part of why the Project Grow Show was created, was to bring. So if I need that money to buy a radio station or to buy a rap company or to do these different things that I'm doing, I need those resources and those funds to grow that ministry. So I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. They're afraid to go collect and make money. But I believe it's what's the condition of your heart, and God knows, right? God knows if I'm paying myself $50,000 a month and I'm blowing it on freaking alcohol and parties and traveling and like on all my own things, and my heart isn't after the ministry truly, then he's going to know that, and it's going to get taken away. That's just the reality.
I think it is intent. It's your heart. It's your motives. Why? You know, and I think it's your situation though too. I think that where do you live? Where do you feel like God's called you to be? Right? It's like what's the living conditions there, and and I think God wants to bless us like vacations and be able to save money, and if you have kids and you got college, and so I think all those things need to be taken into consideration, and I think we need to build a salary around that stuff, and then I guess investments and stuff. But also I think you have the ability to, depending on what you feel like God's calling you to do this or not, like even right now, I'm full-time ministry. haven't been getting a big salary.
Right,
I just haven't, you know, and I actually really need to start. I feel like I need to raise a little bit more support in that. But I'm now thinking I want to start this venture in this radio show or radio station, and that's going to be a for-profit business.
Exactly. And I feel like we had a little bit of that conversation, and I could feel that. And that's been, honestly, since you and I last connected on a deep level like this, that's been the biggest change in me. And I'll tell you, I came across a guy about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. His name's Wes, and hopefully he gets to see this. And I had a conversation. He goes, "What do you pay yourself?" Just randomly. And I was like, well, that's a pretty intense question to ask somebody. And I was like, honestly, not a lot. I could give myself like $5,000 a month, $4 or $5,000 a month, just barely squeaking by. Don't have retirement, don't have medical benefits. I'm like kind of living in a world of lack. He goes, wow. And I'm like, what do you pay yourself? And he goes, $10,000. And this is like, I say this from a place of like, he's one of the most giving, loving, caring, selfless people. And when he said $10,000 to me, I was like, my jaw almost hit the floor, dude. I was like, why is he paying himself $10,000 and I'm only giving myself $5,000? What is that saying about myself?
Yeah.
I'm not valuing myself enough.
Yeah.
Why am I blessing all these other people, helping people generate millions of dollars in revenue for their businesses, but I'm making $5,000 a month? Yeah. I have no retirement, no savings, no medical benefits, no future. That just doesn't right.
No.
So I immediately was like, it was like a gust of wind blew through me, and I was like, dude, I need to change my mentality towards money. I have this mentality that money's bad. And so I feel like there's something that's rooted in society, but also in our Christian beliefs. It's like money can be bad, but the reality is there's a reality check.
No, money is not bad.
It's not bad.
And especially for you. You're in for-profit. I'm saying when it comes to ministry, though.
For sure.
Like, you do have to steward things well, and you do have to, that's why I think it's like, okay, what's your living situation, and what's the real expenses of life? You know what I mean? And then let's build a real budget off of that, and then outside of that, there's other ways you can still, if you feel called. Like right now, I felt fully like I need to do what I'm doing, but because time is very important, right?
Very.
So outside of that, though, if there's opportunities, you can step into those opportunities and generate more income and revenue. And it's not a bad thing. Money's not a bad thing. It is a tool. It can be a blessing. But it's really about your heart, like you were saying.
Yep.
So
I think so, and I think there's a couple things that have popped into my mind of history. I remember asking you.
I think too. There's so many people that see pastors and preachers with the jets and all these different things, and I think that is a turnoff.
It is a turnoff.
It is a turnoff, and it's something that as a minister I take into consideration.
Yep. For your own self.
It's like I'm not trying to say that I don't deserve it, because I think that I do deserve it.
Yeah.
I think a worker is worth his wages.
Yep.
If I was to go get a job anywhere else or be doing anything else, I could make a lot of money. But so I do feel like even right now, like I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I was like, I really need to raise some more support.
Yeah.
Because I need more to support myself.
Yep.
But
well, if you're working in a regular job and you're making great money, but then you go from working in a regular job that isn't serving God to working in a job and a career and in a passion and in a calling that is serving God, why should you not make more money? If you're truly living out what you say you are and what God's called you to do, why would you not make more money than when you were doing something that doesn't align with your purpose? There's just an unhealthy relationship that I think a lot of Christians have with money, as they think that I should be living below my means, and I should be living in like a poverty.
I don't think we should be living below our means. I don't think we should be these poverty ministers.
Yeah.
But I do think that, I think somebody was just speaking this the other day. They were showing me that there's a fine line between greed and God providing.
Yep. It's true.
And if you think about it, we are blessed. Dude, I'm blessed. Like, literally, I have a
Look
nice.
at those tight shoes.
I got some nice shoes. I got a new car.
Yep.
I have a place, in downtown Sacramento.
It's expensive.
I actually got a low income though.
There you go.
So I got hooked up.
God
so
bless.
I actually pay I'm right there across the street from the Gold One Center in this beautiful spot, but it's low income and it's really cheap. But we really are blessed compared to and what's that fine line where it's like I'm going from blessed to greed. And so again, I'm not saying we got to live in poverty. I'm saying look at a budget. What does things cost? How can I take my family on vacation? How can I do all these different things? But at one point now, am I crossing over to a line of, okay, this is a little excess.
Let me go buy my Lambo and
so
go
that's
make
the
a video.
thing, and everybody has their own convictions on that. But I have my own convictions on that, and I think that there is a point where it's like, okay, this is a little excess. I really don't need this much money. I'm fine. I got everything I need. And God has blessed me in that, And if there's other ways to create more revenue outside of that, then awesome. And really, I can just help take those resources to continue to build God's kingdom. Because
move it faster.
If I'm already taken care of, and God's always going to take care of you,
exactly.
What do I need the excess really for? You know? Building God's kingdom and investing back into God's kingdom is the best investment I can make.
Absolutely.
100%.
Well, I think we're definitely equally yoked there and on the same mindset and the same. So
yeah.
I think what we're about to do, what you guys will see here in the coming months together with Paul and I, is going to amaze you. I believe that because it's not us, it's him.
Yep.
And I think you're going to be surprised about what he's got cooking, what I'm going to help him put together. And it all ties in with what we're doing here. So just excited to kind of share that with you as the months and the year rolls out. And I know we're dealing with some crazy times, but good things are coming. Even though if you're struggling right now, just remain faithful. That faithfulness is very important. Reach out to your friends. Pick up the phone and call your friend that you haven't talked to in 6 months, man. I mean, these relationships are so important. Look at this conversation. So if you've been with us this whole time, you are seeing real life, practical, walking it out of what real friendship and real faithfulness is all about. So I just thank you guys for tuning in with us. I thank you, Paul, for being here with me, man. This was a lot of fun.
Dude, for sure. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this today.
Absolutely. We could go all day long, as you guys can see. So I appreciate you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next one. And as always, keep looking up.